Did you know that most of the struggles in our lives stem from our own emotions? A single word spoken in anger can wound someone we love. One comparing glance can spark jealousy and insecurity. And sometimes just one small failure is enough to cast a shadow over our entire day. Emotions themselves are not bad. They are a natural part of being human. But if we don't understand them, if we don't know how to manage them, emotions can quietly become invisible chains, holding us back, limiting the life we long to live. In Eastern philosophy, emotions are called the 7 feelings, 7 shades of human sentiment that follow us through life. In modern psychology, emotions are seen as streams of energy, flowing through every heartbeat, every thought, every daily action. We cannot erase them, but we can learn to listen, to live with them, and most importantly, to transform them into strength that moves us forward, rather than letting them take control. Because if we don't learn to master our emotions, they may cost us far more than we realize. And that is why today, here on Juliana Grey, a place where we search together for balance and gentle inspiration through the wisdom of books, we will explore The Power of Emotions, a work written by French psychiatrists. It is both grounded in science and deeply relevant to everyday life. The authors examine 7 of the most common human emotions: anger, envy, joy, sadness, shame, jealousy, and fear. These 7 states are like lifelong companions on each of our journeys. By understanding them, we learn to interpret our own feelings, to better grasp the emotions of others, and above all, to protect the fragile balance within ourselves. What's fascinating is that emotions are never only negative. Anger can become a drive for change. Envy, if seen in the right light, can push us to grow. Sadness allows us to pause and reflect. Even fear once helped humanity survive since the earliest times. The issue is not to eliminate emotions, but to recognize the messages hidden within them, and to guide that flow of energy in a positive direction. In this video, we will walk through all 7 emotions, uncovering their roots, their functions, and practical ways to manage them. Each section will blend scientific insight with everyday examples, so you can immediately bring these lessons into your own life. A small smile can warm an entire day, while a fleeting burst of anger can leave us exhausted. Emotions, put simply, are streams of living energy flowing through us. From the moment we open our eyes at birth until the very end of our journey, they have never once left our side. At times, emotions are like a gentle breeze, softly stirring the soul. Yet at other times, they turn into hidden storms, sweeping us far from the peace we long for. In Eastern philosophy, emotions are often described as the 7 fundamental feelings: joy, anger, love, hate, sorrow, delight, and desire. Shades of experience that every human being must go through. Buddhism goes further, speaking of the 6 desires, the deep longings bound to earthly life. Long ago, our ancestors already understood. Emotions are not fleeting visitors, but enduring companions on the human journey. Modern psychology looks at emotions in a very simple way. Every feeling we have is really a mix of 3 things that are always connected to each other. First, there's what happens in the body, like when your heart races because you're nervous, when your breath gets short because you're angry, or when your shoulders feel so heavy because sadness is weighing on you. Second, there's the way our mind makes sense of things. The very same event, one person might see as a challenge, while another might see as a painful failure. And finally, there's what shows on the outside. A frown on the face, a deep sigh, or even a gentle smile. All of these are the ways emotions speak without words. What makes emotions so unique is their constant movement. They rise and fall, shifting in color with changing circumstances. And when we fail to notice them in time, they can so easily sweep us away. Anger bursts into outbursts. Sadness pulls us into silence. Fear holds us frozen in place. Many of us then blame ourselves, thinking we are too sensitive or too weak. But the book we are exploring carries a vital message. Emotions are not the enemy. They are signals, mirrors reflecting the truth of our inner world. If we learn to listen, we'll discover that each emotion carries a message, that we need protection, that we long to heal, or that we are being nudged toward change. Imagine emotions as the mind's natural alarm system. They are not here to make life harder. They are here to remind us that something important has happened and deserves our attention. That is why the goal is not to eliminate emotions, but to understand their structure and rhythm, so we can live with them in harmony and with greater peace of mind. From this foundation, we will begin our journey into each of the 7 emotions, from anger to fear, exploring how they work in our lives and discovering how to transform them into a source of strength for ourselves. Have you ever regretted the harsh words you spoke in a moment of anger, knowing they could never be taken back? Anger is one of the most familiar emotions, something every one of us has felt. It can flare up during a family argument, in a tense meeting at work, or even from a careless remark. Anger comes quickly, but it often leaves slowly, and sometimes it leaves scars deeper than we realize. The problem is that most of us don't know how to handle anger well. Some let it erupt, slamming doors, raising voices, speaking words that cut deep. Others push it down, swallowing their frustration, pretending to stay silent, but carrying the resentment long into the night. Both ways cause harm. One damages relationships, the other erodes our inner peace. So where does anger come from? The authors point to 4 common roots. First, when something happens that we don't want, like plans changing unexpectedly, or work piling up beyond what we anticipated, the mind resists. Second, when we feel deliberately hurt by others, a mocking comment or a dismissive gesture can be enough to spark the fire. Third, when a situation goes against our values or principles. For instance, someone who cares deeply about fairness may feel anger rise when confronted with injustice. And finally, perhaps the most subtle, anger arises when we believe we can control the situation. We only feel entitled to be angry when we think we have the right to it. If you encountered a tiger in the forest, you would feel fear, not anger, because you know you are powerless. But at home, you might lash out at those closest to you, precisely because you believe they will not leave you. Realizing this, many people are surprised. Anger does not only come from the situation itself, it often springs from the ego within us, the part that believes others should follow our will. So how can we keep anger from turning into a fire that burns everything around us? The authors suggest several practical steps. Speak with yourself. Question the belief being challenged and gently ask, is this belief absolutely true? Trace the root of your feelings, because sometimes irritation with a child is simply the echo of stress from the workplace. Step into the other person's shoes to see the situation differently. Separate the person from the action. Instead of saying, you're useless, try, this didn't go well, let's fix it together. Pause before sending a message or making a decision in the heat of anger. Allow the other person a chance to speak, because misunderstandings are often at the heart of conflict. And most importantly, learn to let go. Not every battle needs to be won. Sometimes stepping back is the only way to preserve a relationship. It is also worth remembering that suppressing anger can be just as harmful as exploding. Emotions that are buried for too long can harden into a weight on the soul, and even manifest as illness in the body. Anger itself is not evil. It is simply a signal. The real issue lies in how we choose to respond to that signal. Imagine one day, noticing your anger rise, and instead of reacting, you smile and say, I see you. Thank you for the reminder, but I will not let you take control. In that moment, anger is no longer a fire that destroys. It becomes a warning light, helping you adjust, stay balanced, and take back the steering wheel of your life. Have you ever dared to admit that you felt envy? Envy is one of the hardest emotions to acknowledge. We can easily say we are sad, afraid, or even angry. But when someone asks, "Are you envious?" most of us shake our heads or give an awkward smile to avoid the question. Because envy makes us feel small, inadequate, even ashamed. The truth is, envy is deeply human. It is not as dark as we imagine. If you have ever thought, "I wish that were me," when seeing a colleague get promoted, or compared your life to a friend of the same age, seeing them with a house, a car, a happy family, then envy has already appeared. It moves quietly, like a shadow, slipping into the small comparisons of daily life. What matters is understanding that envy is not one-dimensional. It holds both destructive and constructive power, and the way we choose to respond to envy determines whether it becomes a flame of motivation or a fire of destruction. Psychology describes 3 main forms of envy. The first is depressive envy, marked by sadness and pessimism. When we see someone succeed, we immediately think, "That could never happen for me." This feeling of helplessness drags us down, causing us to withdraw and lose faith in our efforts. The second is hostile envy, the most dangerous kind. We look at someone else's success with resentment. How could a person like that achieve so much? From there, we may start to criticize, belittle, or even sabotage. This form of envy not only harms the other person, but slowly poisons our own heart. And finally, there is admiring envy, healthy and constructive. We see someone's talent or success and quietly think, "I want to work hard so I can reach that too." This is the form of envy that can transform into true motivation. The emotion that quietly eats away at us every day is envy. In today's world, envy has become even more common because of one familiar reason: social media. Just a few minutes of scrolling, and we see friends celebrating achievements, posting travel photos, showing off a new home. Outwardly, we tap like and smile, but inside, a quiet question whispers, "And what about me?" That is envy, silent, discreet, yet slowly gnawing at self-worth and straining relationships if left unrecognized. So what can we do? First, have the courage to name it. Simply saying out loud, "I feel envious because they have something I long for," immediately lessens its grip. Next, try transforming envy into a genuine word of congratulations. "I'm truly happy for you, because I know how much effort it must have taken to get here." When spoken with sincerity, that positive energy comes back and nourishes us in return. At the same time, ask yourself, am I being too insecure, always seeing myself as less than others? Or is my ego too strong, always demanding to be better than everyone else? Both extremes are fertile ground for negative envy to grow. Another way to soften envy is to reduce the exaggeration. Often, the success we see in others has been magnified in our own minds. We notice the spotlight, but forget the sleepless nights, the quiet persistence, the sacrifices behind it. When we see others as ordinary people, just like us, envy begins to fade, and finally redefine what is truly worth admiring. Instead of envying wealth, titles, or fame, learn to appreciate those who know how to create happiness for themselves. A mechanic who smiles while doing his simple work, a mother patiently teaching her child every evening, an artist quietly performing on a small stage with all their passion. These are the people truly worthy of our admiration and inspiration. In the end, envy is like a mirror reflecting our hidden dreams. Each time you feel envy, you are really discovering a part of yourself, a desire you may have forgotten, or one you haven't yet dared to pursue. The person you envy is only showing you what you too long for. If we learn to listen, envy is no longer an enemy, but a teacher, guiding us toward the life we genuinely want to live. In the end, the whole journey of human life circles back to one pursuit: happiness. Among all the emotions we experience, joy and happiness are perhaps the ones we long for most deeply. From ancient times to the modern world, every journey, every invention, every dream, from building the pyramids to composing a love song, has shared a common purpose: to bring people closer to happiness. And yet, happiness has no single definition. For one person, it may be career success. For another, a warm and loving family. For someone else, simply a quiet afternoon on the porch with a cup of tea in hand, watching their children play. Happiness is not a single mold we all must fit. It is the personal melody each of us is writing for our own life. Scientists have studied and identified a very special smile. The Duchenne smile, a smile that doesn't just touch the lips, but reaches the eyes, leaving warm creases behind. It is a smile that cannot be faked, because it rises from genuine joy. And here's the question: how many times a day do you smile like that? Perhaps when your child runs to hug you after a long day at work, when a colleague surprises you with your favorite cup of coffee, or when you share a quiet nod of understanding with your partner. These small, fleeting moments are the true pieces of happiness. Joy carries a unique power. It doesn't just make us feel lighter, it changes the way we live. When we are joyful, we are more generous, more willing to share and give. When we are joyful, creativity flows, and our decisions come not from haste, but from positive energy. When we are joyful, we become braver, more willing to step outside our comfort zones and challenge ourselves. Joy is like the morning sun. When it rises, it brightens the space around us, urging trees to stretch upward, birds to sing, and hearts to feel just a little less heavy. Happiness is not a destination, but the little pieces we gather in each day. The author divides happiness into 4 forms. The first is excitement from the outside, the thrill of winning or achieving something tangible. The second is excitement from within, the deep satisfaction of accomplishment when we complete a meaningful goal. The third is calm from the outside, a quiet moment in the garden with loved ones, simply watching children play. And finally, calm from within, the peace that comes from understanding the purpose of life, accepting both its rises and falls, and living with serenity. None of these forms of happiness is greater or lesser than the others. Each is precious, and at different stages of life, we learn to cherish different kinds. To sustain a happy life, a few key elements matter most. First is health, the foundation that allows us to enjoy every moment. Next is character, the ability to find joy in simple things. Then come warm relationships, where we are supported and loved. Equally important is faith, something that lifts our spirit when life shakes us. And finally, meaningful work, so that we feel useful, fulfilled, and able to contribute. Young people often think happiness belongs to youth, to success, to glitter. But research shows many people actually feel happier in later years because they have learned to accept. Happiness, at its heart, is not about having more, but about knowing when we have enough and appreciating it. The happiest person is not the one who has everything, but the one who finds joy in any circumstance. So if you feel caught in the whirl of work and responsibility, pause for just a moment. Ask yourself, what truly makes me feel joy? Perhaps it is simply a family meal, a slow and unhurried morning, or a smile shared with someone close. Happiness is not a distant destination. It is made of the small pieces scattered along our everyday journey. And when we gather them, when we treasure each one, we begin to see happiness was never far away. It has always been here, waiting quietly in each present moment. Sadness is not the enemy. It is an inevitable part of the human journey. At some point in life, every one of us has known sorrow. It may come from being criticized by a manager, from the fracture of a relationship, from losing a loved one or even a beloved pet, or simply from losing faith in ourselves. Though it takes many forms, the root of sadness is always loss. The loss of trust, the loss of connection, the loss of health or possessions, the loss of meaning. And such loss weighs heavily, pulling down the heart, clouding our eyes with layers of gray mist. We often avoid sadness because it makes us feel weak, powerless. Modern society only deepens this fear. Social media is filled with images of joy, success, and happiness, pushing us to wear a smile, even when we don't feel one inside. But the truth is, sadness is not useless. It exists to remind us what truly matters. It is like a mirror, forcing us to reflect on our actions, our mistakes, the blind spots we once ignored. Sadness can also become an opening, a chance to connect more deeply with others. When you are sad, you are more likely to feel the pain of another. And when you share your sadness, others open their hearts to walk with you through the darker days. The real problem only arises when we remain trapped in sadness, unable to find our way out. In that state, sadness becomes a pit that swallows every hope. So how can we face this emotion? First, allow yourself to accept it. Those with spiritual faith often find it easier to endure sorrow because they see it as part of karma, a necessary lesson for growth. If you can see sadness not as an enemy but as an experience along the journey of life, your heart will feel lighter. Sadness becomes a teacher that helps you treasure joy even more when it returns. It is also deeply important to share your sadness with someone you trust. But sharing does not mean repeating your story again and again. It means daring to speak it once, to release it. Sometimes a single moment of expression is enough for the heart to breathe again. After that, try shifting your focus. Return to the activities that once sparked your interest. Reading a book, taking a walk in the park, trying a gentle sport, or starting a small project. These things won't erase sadness overnight, but they offer fresh energy, enough so that sadness no longer occupies your entire heart. And if nothing seems enough, don't hesitate to seek professional help. A therapist can offer a new perspective, helping you untangle knots you cannot loosen alone. This is not weakness, it is courage. The courage to choose a healthier path for your soul. Sadness, after all, is like the rain. At times it drizzles softly, at times it pours without mercy. But after every storm, the sky clears, the trees grow greener, and so it is with us. If we allow the tears to fall, if we accept the long, wet nights, then the dawn will arrive with a heart that has been cleansed. Sadness does not make us weak. It teaches us just how fragile happiness can be, and because of that, we learn to cherish every single moment we are given. The hardest thing to speak about in life is not always sadness, but the feeling of shame. Among all the emotions people try to keep hidden, shame may be one of the hardest to admit. It doesn't explode like anger, it doesn't gnaw as fiercely as envy, and it isn't as obvious as sadness. Shame creeps in quietly, making us lower our heads, blush, and wish we could disappear from the eyes of others. It is the feeling that we are lesser, inadequate, or looked down upon. And sometimes, just one careless comment, one contemptuous glance, or one small mistake is enough for shame to cling to us for years. The roots of shame can begin very early. A child may feel ashamed because their parents work simple jobs, drive an old car, or dress plainly. Another may feel shame over a body that looks different during adolescence, maturing too early, too late, or simply not like their peers. Others feel shame for poor grades, for failing to fit in, or for not meeting their family's expectations. And in adulthood, shame arises in harsher comparisons. Earning less than friends, lagging behind colleagues in career, or having a family life that doesn't look as complete as others. Shame becomes a shadow, following us from childhood into our grown years. The signs of shame are easy to recognize. A flushed face, eyes cast downward, shoulders hunched, words stumbling out awkwardly. But behind these signs is a quiet voice saying, "I'm not good enough. Others will look down on me." In this way, shame plays a special role. It urges us to adjust our behavior, to be more considerate in the eyes of others. For example, if you drop your bag of groceries at the supermarket, without shame you might slowly pick it up, indifferent to those waiting around. But with shame, you quickly apologize, gather your things, and in return, you receive understanding. Shame, in this sense, acts like a social thread that helps us live in harmony with one another. Yet shame also has a darker side. In excess, it makes us withdraw, grow timid and shy away from others, until we are quietly cut off from the group. More dangerously, some become lifelong prisoners of shame, such as those who have endured abuse or violence. Even though they were never at fault, they carry heavy self-blame, trapped in silence, unable to face the world. In these cases, shame is no longer a social thread, but a chain that binds the soul. So how can we manage this emotion? First, dare to name it. When you acknowledge, "I feel ashamed because I failed, because I misspoke, because I didn't meet expectations," shame immediately loses part of its grip. The worst part is not the shame itself, but the belief that you are the only one who feels it. In truth, everyone has known shame. Some hide it, others choose to share it. Next, try transforming shame into simple embarrassment. Embarrassment is fleeting. It can be softened with a smile while shame clings on. When we learn to gently laugh at our small mistakes, we give ourselves permission to forgive and move forward. At the same time, lessen contact with those who deliberately try to shame you. Some people use mockery or humiliation to mask their own insecurity. With them, the best choice is distance. Do not let yourself become the victim of their immaturity. Finally, look deeply into your inner beliefs. Many people feel shame because they set standards that are impossibly high. They believe they must be perfect, always worthy of admiration. But life does not demand perfection. It asks for authenticity. When we learn to accept that I have the right to make mistakes, and I don't need everyone's approval, shame begins to dissolve, making room for confidence and freedom. If managed well, shame can be a reminder to live with sincerity and respect. But if left unchecked, it can make us lose ourselves. That is why we must learn to face it gently, smile at it, and remind ourselves that imperfection is its own kind of perfection. Only when we dare to stand tall, lift our heads high, can we truly step into the light, free and at peace. Jealousy does not prove that you love more. It only reveals the insecurity within. Among the emotions we rarely dare to admit, jealousy is perhaps one of the most complex and unsettling. It is different from envy. Envy is directed outward. We see someone else possessing what we desire. Jealousy, however, arises when we fear losing what we already have to someone else. It is a mix of unease, restlessness, anger, fear, shame, often accompanied by doubt. This is why jealousy is most often spoken of in the context of love and marriage, where each person longs to keep their partner's affection exclusively for themselves. In primitive societies, this emotion once helped humans survive. If a man felt no jealousy, he might raise a child who was not his own. If a woman did not hold tightly to her partner, she risked being abandoned during times of scarce food. In that sense, jealousy once had a role in protecting survival. But in the modern world, where relationships are more complex and freedom of choice is greater, jealousy is no longer just a survival instinct. It has become a double-edged sword. on one hand showing how much we value love, yet on the other hand, turning into chains that suffocate both partners. The signs of jealousy are ones you may have seen, or even experienced yourself. Some constantly check their partner's phone, monitor every friendship, refusing to allow personal space. Some belittle their partners with criticism and harsh words, because deep down they fear the other will find someone better. And some let jealousy erupt into anger, interrogating, accusing, or even punishing with cold silence. All of these behaviors slowly drain the energy of the relationship, turning love, once beautiful, into a heavy burden. Jealousy is not proof of love. Jealousy is not proof of love. It is only a sign of the insecurity within ourselves. If you believe you are not attractive enough, not important enough, then even the smallest gesture from your partner can ignite jealousy. But if you are grounded and secure, you understand that love cannot be kept through control. It can only be nurtured through trust and sharing. So how can we manage jealousy? First, have the courage to admit it. Don't deny it, and don't blame yourself too harshly. Say honestly, I feel insecure. I'm afraid of losing something precious. The moment you name it, you begin to control it, instead of letting it control you. Then ask yourself, where does this feeling come from? Was I once hurt by betrayal? Did I grow up seeing favoritism, making me fear not being loved completely? Or is it simply because I have not yet built enough confidence in myself? When you find the root, you will realize that often your partner has done nothing wrong. It is the old wound inside you that has been touched. The next step is to give your partner space. Jealousy often appears when we try to control, but the truth is, the more control we exert, the greater the risk becomes. A relationship can only thrive when there is both closeness and a certain freedom. Trust may be difficult, but without trust, everything is already lost. And finally, remember that jealousy can also be transformed into positive energy. It shows us how much we care about the relationship, reminding us that love is not guaranteed forever. Seen clearly, jealousy can serve as a gentle warning, urging us to pay more attention, to listen more, to give more to the person we love. Uncontrolled jealousy can fracture any relationship. But when we understand it and face it honestly, it can become an opportunity to heal ourselves and to help love grow stronger. Because true love is not possession, it is freedom and connection. And only when we learn to trust can we give both ourselves and our partners the space to breathe and to walk together with lightness and resilience. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is feeling afraid and still choosing to move forward. If anger is like a raging fire, and sadness is like an underground river, then fear is the silent darkness that covers the soul. It makes our hearts race, our breath quicken, our palms sweat, our bodies tense. No matter how well we try to hide it, inside a quiet voice whispers, I might fail. I might be left behind. I might lose everything. In its own way, fear has always been humanity's lifelong companion. In primitive society, fear had a vital role in survival. Humans feared venomous snakes, lightning, and the dark, fears that kept us away from danger and helped our ancestors endure. But in the modern world, fear has not disappeared. It has simply changed form. Now we fear losing our jobs, fear not being able to compete, fear speaking in public, fear rejection, fear not being loved, or even fear ourselves. There are also cultural and social fears. Children fearing parents, students fearing teachers, employees fearing their bosses. These fears may not threaten our lives, but they do threaten our sense of safety and dignity. The real danger is that when fear goes unrecognized, it easily turns into destructive energy. We begin to doubt ourselves, lose confidence, and let anxiety consume our days. Some refuse opportunities because of fear, missing out on precious experiences. Others choose to stay inside their comfort zones, too afraid to change, watching life pass them by with regret. And some, terrified of loss, try to control everything. Controlling children, controlling partners, controlling work, until they are exhausted by their own grip. So how can we manage fear? The first step may sound simple, but it is the hardest. Dare to admit that you are afraid. When we can say, I'm afraid of failing, I'm afraid of being left behind, I'm afraid I'm not good enough, the darkness inside already begins to crack, letting light seep through. Fear is no longer a secret. It becomes something we can observe and even speak to. The second step is to prepare and equip yourself with knowledge. Many fears exist only because we don't know enough. Someone afraid of traveling alone will feel safer after planning a detailed itinerary, researching accommodations, and contacting a companion in advance. Someone afraid of public speaking will feel less pressure by rehearsing many times, anticipating questions, and reminding themselves they don't need to be perfect, just sincere. With preparation, fear loses much of its power. The third step is to relax and calm the body. When your heart races and your breath quickens, close your eyes. Inhale slowly and exhale gently. Breathing in, know that you are breathing in. Breathing out, know that you are breathing out. Just a few rounds of mindful breathing can soothe the body, and with it, ease the intensity of fear. Finally, face it directly, but in small steps. Afraid of crowds? Start with a small meeting. Afraid of heights? Stand on a second-floor balcony before thinking of mountain peaks. Afraid of failure? Try a small project before leaping into something bigger. By approaching fear in manageable doses, little by little, its power fades, and with every encounter, you grow stronger. The most important truth is this: fear is not the enemy. It is simply a signal that you are stepping out of your comfort zone, moving closer to change. Instead of pushing it away, see it as a companion, a gentle reminder. When we learn to walk with fear, we are no longer controlled by it. We can use it as fuel to move forward. Because courage does not mean the absence of fear. Courage is trembling, worrying, yet still choosing to take the next step. And once we walk through fear, we realize what lies on the other side. Freedom. A wider, more open life that we truly deserve. In the end, we don't need to become flawless human beings. We only need to become ourselves. We have just walked together on a long journey, exploring the 7 emotions that are always present in human life. Anger, envy, joy, sadness, shame, jealousy, and fear. Each emotion is like an uninvited guest, sometimes making us suffer, but when we learn to listen, they become teachers, showing us who we truly are. Anger can destroy, but it can also be a powerful force for justice if we dare to face it and guide it. Envy can hurt, but it can also push us forward when we learn to admire rather than resent. Joy is the light that nourishes the spirit, bringing creativity, generosity, and courage, reminding us that happiness lies not in perfection, but in savoring the small moments. Sadness is the heavy rain, but after the storm the sky clears, and the heart learns to treasure joy more than ever. Shame can make us bow our heads, but it also teaches us to act with decency and kindness, if we can learn to smile at our own awkwardness. Jealousy can turn love into chains, yet it is also a reminder that love must be cared for through trust, not control. And fear, which seems like a prison of darkness, is in truth a doorway. When we dare to open it, we find a wider horizon and a stronger version of ourselves. All 7 emotions are not inherently bad. They only become dangerous when we let them control us. But when we acknowledge them, listen to them, and even converse with them, each can be transformed into strength. We do not need to erase emotions, nor force ourselves to always be positive. What we need is to live in harmony with them, so they are not chains, but wings. The book reminds us of one essential truth. Perfection is not the absence of negative emotions, but the ability to embrace ourselves fully, both light and shadow. When we accept our imperfections, we discover a deeper, more lasting kind of perfection. Take a moment to look back at your own life. Think of how angry you've been, how envious, how sad, ashamed, or afraid. Do you see that these experiences have shaped the person you are today? Without them, perhaps we would remain indifferent, never knowing what it means to love, to value, to be truly happy. So instead of rejecting or hiding emotions, practice saying to them, "I see you. I accept your presence." Even this small sentence can bring calm to the heart, because when we no longer have to hide, we become freer, more peaceful, and more mature. Every emotion is an essential part of who you are. Let them coexist. Let them move together, so that you don't just live, but live fully. And may this journey leave you with a lighter heart, enough compassion to embrace yourself, enough courage to face life, and enough peace to share love with those around you. Thank you for walking with me through this exploration of the 7 emotions, those indispensable guests in all of our lives. If you found this video meaningful, please share it with someone you care about. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you won't miss the upcoming reflections. Your support is what keeps me bringing more books and more lessons to you. Once again, thank you sincerely, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.